Alright, I'm going to powder coat my master cylinder. First thing I'm going to do is clean it all off. I know I already sandblasted it, but it's got some residual oils on there. I cleaned it up with some degreaser, but there's probably some dust on there. Maybe the oils from my hands have touched it. So first thing I'm going to do is clean it off with some rubbing alcohol. Get yourself a lint-free rag. Soak it up pretty good. Make sure you're getting all the little crevices. Alcohol's cheap, so don't hold back. If you noticed on this, I plugged up the outlet port with some foil. I plugged up the well with foil. I actually have some copper wire jammed down in there just to fill it up. Obviously, on the I should say back side, I've already taken the plunger out. There's like a rubber washer that holds the fluid back. Anything that could cook in an oven, like rubber in particular, you have to take out, or else it'll just melt. You'll have a disaster on your hands. And obviously I don't want any powder going inside, so I plug that up. Every little nook and cranny on this thing. You want your powder to stick, obviously. You can use acetone, I think. There's some other chemicals you could use. I like this alcohol because it's cheap and got some other uses around the house for it. Alright, now that this is all wiped down, I'm going to put it on pause because some other setup to do, but I'll come back. Alright, we're back. I moved the master cylinder to this rig. Here's my rig. So what I did was I made this rig here to be the same size. This is basically the same size as the inside of my oven. And I went to the hardware store and I bought a Lazy Susan turn style piece of hardware. And you see what I can do here? I can turn this. So it allows for the least amount of disruption for my wires and stuff. And I'm shooting into a corner. The other thing is I have my dust mask on. So if you look at my gun, this is Eastwood's gun. I'm using cast iron color. Right now I have the diffuser off. The diffuser would go here. You'll see me put that on in a second. Because what you want to do when you first start powder coating any piece, make sure you take I'm just saying what works best for me. I take the diffuser off and I shoot in the hardest to get places. And for this particular piece, it's going to be right in here and right in there, you can see. And the reason why you're going to do that is because that Farragut cage effect where I'm no electrical engineer, but something to the effect of you have these positively charged particles and they're going to resist one another if you keep dumping more and more of those positively charged particles into the same space. So kind of want to get those tough to reach spots at first and then kind of do the easier parts after that. Trying to get the tough to grab spots first. And this powder's cheap, so don't be afraid you're going to use it all up. It's always good to have well lit. I got 2 lights shining right on this area. Alright, that's it. Powder's on. And let me get the oven set up and I'll bring it back. Alright, master cylinder is cooking in the oven. You can see it in there. See it? Yeah. Anyway, now listen, since that master cylinder is cast iron, I doubt that it's going to get to 400 degrees too quickly. So with being that, the inside of it, as soon as the oven beeps that's set at 400, that just means the inside of the oven is 400 degrees, right? So as soon as I open the door and then I bring my piece over, I've already let heat out. So probably it's dropped down to, let's just say 380 or something like that. Probably going to take another minute or two to get back up into 400. And then, especially because that piece is cast iron, it's going to take several minutes for that cast iron, the heat inside the oven to conduct into the cast iron. The instructions say on most powder coating websites is it's really a function of the powder, the manufacturer powder. I use Eastwood. Eastwood says 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Not the oven, that's the piece. The piece needs to get to 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Now, I have my trusty laser gun here. So what I like to do is wait a few minutes, shoot the gun on the piece and see what it's at, and then I set my timer on my phone and then I set it for 20 minutes. So basically what I'm saying is, don't put the piece in, set your timer for 20 minutes and then come back and take it out unless it's something really thin. If you don't have one of these temperature guns and you're just kind of like going by sight, it's kind of easy to tell, because when you put the piece in, it's powdery, it's dry, and then it'll start turning wet looking, and then it kind of goes back to a dry, but it looks painted. So if you don't have a temperature gun, or you have pieces, I've had my spindle piece when I did my suspension, I powder coated that earlier this year. I don't know if that piece ever got to 400 degrees, just because it probably weighs about 12 pounds. It's cast iron. And this oven just couldn't do it. So I think I baked it for roughly 35 minutes, and it turned out pretty good. I put it on, the powder coater's not scratching off or anything like that. So you just gotta take some feel, take some practice. This is really only maybe like the 3rd time I've powder coated in the last 6 months, and but I've had some success. So I'll take it out and I'll bring it back. Here's another little update. 10 minutes have gone by. It just went off. Let's see if it comes back. 276 degrees after 10 minutes. So it's still nowhere near 400 degrees yet. I'll bring you back. All right, let's see where we're at. We are at 15 minutes. Somewhere around 290 degrees. So we'll keep at it. All right, let's take a look and bring it inside. Get a better light. take a look here. That looks pretty good. Take a look at the tough spots to get to. Oh yeah, looks pretty good. Alright, a couple things just to circle back on. That looks pretty good. Kind of looks pretty new. Is when you're hanging stuff, like I just happen to hang stuff. You can set it on top of the grates too. Is I try. You're always going to get a shadow. What I call them shadows is when you have your piece hanging like this from something. I use some old copper wire. Try to think about the shadows you're going to leave. Sometimes you need a big piece of wire that runs like from one side to the other, so that it's almost like your piece is on a clothesline. Because if you use I know like Eastwood sells hooks, you know, and you'll get a hook that'll look something, you know, kind of something like this. The trouble is when you have a hook like that, is you'll get that long shadow here. And what I mean by that is you're spraying your powder, but this the copper hanger is kind of getting in the way and not letting the powder get to your piece. So I've made this mistake before. You'll take your piece out of the oven and you're like, oh man, I got this line on it where none of the powder got to. So think about casting the least amount of shadow as possible. And the other thing I've learned too is, so here's my oven grate. I don't know if you can kind of see it real close because the light's not all that great, but I got so much powder on that. And the more powder you get on it, the less conductive it'll be. It'll be harder for you to get the powder to stick. So what you wind up having to do, I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to have to do it, is I'm going to have to sandblast. Put that in my cabinet and blast off the powder so I get back to having the highly conductive grate. So I hope this video helped, and yeah, if you have any suggestions for me or any questions, feel free to hit me up.